Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new tutorial in the F1 23 game. Today I'm going to be teaching you how to master the no ABS assist in the F1 game. We're going to be covering the basics of the braking bias, how much brake pressure to apply, the trail braking, and how to apply the different corners that have different techniques going into them. For example, straight line braking zones and also turning to the apex while braking. Like very much these corners that we're in right now. We're going to be on Kota today as it's one of the best circuits to learn no ABS with its combination of straight line braking zones and turning braking zones, notably in the first and last sector, and then the second sector filled with these straight line braking zones like I just went through right now. So we're going to be kicking this off by talking about the brake bias. When you load into the F1 game, the stock brake bias is around 62-63%, and as I'm going to show you, this is way too far forward. You just instantly lock up these front tyres and you have no chance. Although I know probably a lot of people are going to know this, I'm still going to go into detail about this next point anyway, because I want these videos to be inclusive and detailed and analytical for everyone, and be inclusivity for everyone at home to be able to learn and enjoy from these videos. So with that being said, the brake bias percent is how much of the brake pressure is going correlating towards the front tires and the rear tires. For example, on the bottom right hand side of the screen, you can see that I have 70% brake pressure, and that is correlating to 70% of the braking force going to the front tires and 30% going to the rear tires. When we have 60%, that's 60% going to the front tires and 40% going to the rear tires. And when we have 50%, that means that 50% is going to the front tires and 50% is going to the rear tires. As you'll find out, in a modern Formula 1 car, having 50% of the rear tires is not a good idea. As you're going to see, what happens going into this apex is I'm going to hit the brake normally and try to slow down, and we're facing the pit lane. What is not normally a good thing. So what happened there is the rear tires lose grip, the front tires lose grip as well, and as you're slowing down from a braking zone and going down the gears, every single time you downshift, you slightly will unsettle the rear differential of the car and lock up the rear tires as a result. Although it's a micro fraction, every single time you downshift a Formula 1 car, or pretty much any car in total, you will have a slight disturbance to the rear tires, and that, with combination of a 50% brake pressure going towards the rear tires in a Formula 1 car with the modern electrical units, that is just way too much for the rear tires to handle. In a normal combustion engine, without the ERS and harvesting going on in the modern Formula 1 car, 50% is probably manageable. You'll see it in F4, F3, that these kind of lower or higher, depending on how you look at it. Basically, more brake pressure towards the rear tires is more equipable, is more usable, but in a modern Formula 1 car is not there. And if you run 70% brake pressure, the complete opposite is going to happen, and you're just going to lock up the front tires straight away, as I just shown you right there. And we did a nice little drift, get back on the racing line. That was lovely. In the Formula 1 game, I highly recommend using 56-57% brake pressure while learning, as this will give you a good balance between front locking, rear locking, and ability to rotate the car into the apex. As a basic rule and a basic rule of thumb, if you are locking the rear tires, put the front brake bias forward to 57%, and if you are locking the front tires, then put the brake bias to 56%. But in baseline and in summary, running 56% will give you a good baseline and analytical ability to understand the next phases of the tutorial and learn your braking approach going forward. And the next point of the braking tutorial is going to be the trail braking and braking load that you put into the brake pedal, whether you're playing on a racing wheel with pedals like I am, or you're using a controller, or even keyboard. Hell, even Guitar Hero you can drive the F1 game with. So Basically, a rule of thumb that I apply and what I would always apply to people learning no ABS is to be using this kind of rule that the slower corners you need to put less brake pressure, and the high speed corners you can apply more. A way to correlate it with the mind is if you're going to a corner that is in third gear or second gear, i.e. the Monaco hairpin, which is really slow and a really easy corner to lock up the front tires with, when you're going in second gear, only apply 20% brake pressure. When you're in third gear, apply 30% brake pressure. If you're in fourth gear, start to apply 40-50% brake pressure. And then when you get into fifth gear, you can start applying 50-55% brake pressure as well. Sixth gear, you can start applying 70-80% brake pressure. And then seventh gear and eighth gear, you can apply 100% brake pressure and get the maximum braking efficiency out of the car. With that being said though, always try to remain as straight as possible in the braking zones, as quite simply any time that you are turning the front tyres, i.e. like I am doing right now, you are losing grip potential from the car and the tyres as well. The tyres and the car will be at its most grippy and most predictable when travelling in a straight line, as that is effectively where the camber, toe and really what the car is, like, let's say, set up to do. And any time that you're traveling in a straight line, you'll have the most stability and efficiency from the grip level possible. And any time that you start turning the car, you will start to unsettle that balance. And think of it like you want the car to always have one job to do, and that's what the car will do best at that one moment. If you want the car to accelerate, it will do it great. If you want the car to brake, it will do it great. But if you want the car to accelerate and accelerate and turn at the same time, I should say, or brake and turn at the same time, then you're going to have trouble, as the racing car and racing tires don't really like doing two things at once. As ironic as it sounds, because Formula 1 cars are fantastic at about going around high-speed corners really, really fast. So, with that being said, you always have to remember that in this tutorial we're talking about the ABS, so we're going to be talking about the braking and turning at the same time, and we're going to be going into the final sector here as a prime example on how to show that. So coming into this apex, what doesn't really have that much of a straight line braking zone, you sort of hit the brake and then you can see I progressively come off the brake pedal. If you're looking to the middle of the screen, you can see the red bar that is indicating how much brake pressure I am applying. And as you can see, as I'm traveling in a straight line for this braking zone, I'm applying more pressure, and pretty much as soon as I start to turn in and go down into the third gears, like I say, I reduce down to 20-30% brake pressure as I'm starting to turn the car into the apex. You'll see it one more time as I'm going through this high-speed sequence. I'm going to be really careful on the brake pedal as I start to get to the end of the sequence, as I'm turning and braking at the same time, and that is going to be reducing grip as I'm going through this apex. And you can see I was just feathering the throttle to make sure I didn't lock up those front tires. With that being said though, we have now covered the brake bias, and like I say, 56% is pretty much the ideal spot to learn in the F1 game. We have now covered the brake pressure and brake turning as well. And the final thing I want to be talking to you about is these different style of corners. And I really want to go a little bit more in depth with you on how you can approach these corners. Because one of the most difficult sections of corners is actually here in Sector 3 in Kota. And we're approaching this very corner right now. So easy to lock up the tires. And what my best advice for you at home is while you're learning to use no ABS, and it's quite easy for you to make a mistake, is try to approach these corners as straight as possible. So get to the outside line, turn in, and bring the car in a really smooth kind of motion. Don't worry about turning and braking at the same time yet. Just do one thing at a time. And you can see just taking this line to keep the braking zone as straight as possible, turn the car in, and then get the car on the exit. One more time I'll show you on this example, and I'm going to go extra slow on this time. So you can see in this example, just keeping the car as straight as possible in the braking zone, bring the car to the outside of the track, then turn it in gradually, bring it to the apex, and smooth back on the power. What you see professionals do, whether it's real life, esports as well, you see us braking and turning very aggressively, relatively, at the same time. We'll be taking a line of constant radius arc, and you can see we'll be turning basically the whole braking zone, and that's simply just because we have learned to master this art of trail braking and braking and turning at the same time, and it can take years to learn. If you're just coming into this as someone who's new to not using ABS and really trying to accelerate your learning, don't worry about comparing yourself to the professionals just yet. Just focus on yourself and what you can do as well to maximize your learning. So we'll do it on these next 2 corners as well. Like I say, really slow it down, try to prepare the apex, keep the car in a straight line as possible, lift off the brake pedal, go into the apex, and smooth back on the exit. You can see one more time, you can see we're not trying to overstimulate the car by turning and braking at the same time. It's critical to build these things up and not knock your confidence too early, because if you knock your confidence, you're not really going to be learning. You're going to be frustrated, you're going to be unhappy, and with that being said, you won't be as efficient with learning as possible. It took me so long to learn no ABS. Really, it took me so long. I learned it back in 2014, and it took me upward of months to learn no ABS. And to be honest, still today, I'm learning how I can still improve my braking techniques. So with that being said, keep learning. What you can do always is have a calm mind, a progressive mentality, and always be proud of the results that you're doing. Even if your friend, rival, whatever, is doing something better than you at this very moment in time, doesn't mean you can't learn to be better than them in the future. With that being said though, thank you so much for watching this video. Hopefully you found this sort of basic understanding of ABS useful, and I will definitely be doing follow-up videos and tutorials in the future as well. If you have any more videos and tutorials that you'd like to see, be sure to post them down in the comments and I'll do my best to make that video for you. With that being said, I've been Brendon Leigh. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. Grazie, ciao ciao.